The rain sings in layers of footsteps and broken wind. It whispers through trees. It whistles to the pipes and raps lightly upon the roof. Water droplets run toward a place unseen, hidden just below the earth where we cannot reach. They fall into a place that, on a usual day, remains concealed to our large, watchful eyes. Luckily, today is a day unusual. Coco has a deep love for her raincoats that most outfits, no matter how flashy or cozy or colorful, fail to rival. She loves its bright yellow glow, the neatly folded little pockets, and the big brimmed hat that came to match. Standing next to Mimsy, blanketed by the dark shadows of the forest, Coco looks like a flaming light. Oranges, yellows, and browns crunch softly beneath their squeaky boots. The rain is a cold rain, and, though it is not preferred, the two remain warm and merry. Mimsy is a lady who, despite being partial to umbrellas, wears a mauve, highly pocketed raincoat. That is not to say that, at this moment, she lacks an umbrella. No, quite the opposite. Because of their length and odd diamond shape, it is quite difficult to find a hooded coat that covers her ears. She could, of course, wear a hat like Coco's, but, in all truth, she quite likes umbrellas. They're so dramatic, romantic, and dance easily beneath her paws. She spins it idly, flinging water droplets out in a circle from its edges. 2 droplets land on the edge of Coco's nose, making it twitch with surprise. She lets them sit, and, with the vibrations of her small steps, they slide right off her silky fur. Small blotches of white pattern the distant trunks, and, though she can see it coming, Mimsy is still taken by surprise when the passing trees are increasingly swathed in thick coats of creeping white roses. How could there be so many? Yes, it has been a long time since they last wandered this path, and as time passes all things change, but still, it hasn't been that long, has it? She's never seen a rose in this forest before, and for them to have come and multiplied with such force, it is unthinkable. Worrywart that she is, Mimsy finds herself unnerved, yet it is not enough to throw her off the path. If, perhaps, she had been traveling alone, she would most certainly turn tail and run home. But, with Coco by her side, she feels that, despite this odd change, everything will be all right. Petals scatter from above, shaken loose by the drizzling storm. One lands yet again on the edge of Coco's nose. She wiggles her nose reflexively, but the petal stays on. She shakes her head, sending droplets flying into Mimsy's face. Yet still the petal remains. Mimsy leans forward and licks the petal off her face, chewing it into a fine pulp. There, much better. The two continue pattering their paws down the path, smelling the rain and nibbling at pears stored in their pockets. The downpour slows and the forest darkens. Not from any change in sky, but from the sheer number of roses curling themselves into a roof along the tall branches. To the untrained eye, it would seem that Coco remains entirely unbothered by the sudden change in flora. Her face is relaxed, her stride is easy, and nothing of her manner seems to differ from those of moments past. Mimsy knows better. Coco's energy, both their energy, is different, tense. With a pale, single eye, Mimsy watches her very best friend squint upward at a canopy of white. She copies Coco, and the infinite roses spiraling above blur into a single sky-consuming cloud. A loud crack cuts through the soft, rhythmic crunch of leaves. They both jump. Heart hammering, Mimsy moves her foot to find a broken branch covered head to toe in light green lichen. She lets out a breath. Coco gives the stick a nudge with her foot before picking it up and chucking it into the trees. The stick whooshes right past a stag beetle, nearly conking it on the head. The bunnies, however, remain unaware of the poor bug's plight and continue on their wary way into the dark. As the vines knit themselves tightly together, the rose cloud above turns from white to gray to nearly black, and it becomes so dark that Mimsy begins to question whether they are truly in shadow, or if the world around them has been turned into an early night. As the light fades from their view, so too does the even pattern of rain upon her umbrella. She closes it and lets it rest upon her shoulder like before. Something brushes her paw and she jumps back sharply, only to realize that that something was Coco reaching for her. She relaxes, and they continue to walk, paw in paw. Making their way across the forest floor, the muted rhythm of rain begins to sharpen. Within 100 heartbeats, the darkness of the forest breaks into a ragged circle of light. Stepping into the clearing, the rain taps down on their shoulders once more. It drips down their coats, runs along long stalks of grass, bumbles over small wildflowers, and circles the rims of little white mushrooms. It seems that this relatively empty break in the trees has been claimed by the roses as well. In the center of the clearing sits a halo of them, hugging each other tightly, keeping watch over the outside world. Peeking just over their heads stands a circle of long white mushrooms in just one shape, but many sizes. Walking over for a closer look, our bunnies begin to see, in the center of centers, their own reflections creeping up on them. A perfectly round puddle sits in a perfectly round circle of mushrooms in a perfectly round bundle of flowers and a perfectly round break in the trees. Coco reckons that, from above, all these circles must look like one big target. That would make her and Mimsy darts, wouldn't it? She looks at the flat, glassy surface of the puddle, unbroken by the rain shivering through it. Coco bends her knees. Mimsy mirrors her movements. 1 heartbeat. 2 heartbeats. 3. They spring up into the air and fall right through the bullseye.